it was a day. Did you all have a great weekend?
It was
Yeah,
a
definitely.
wonderful weekend. Beautiful. I am ready for the warm weather though.
Me too. I don't like the sneaking back and forth between. I just make up your mind, you know?
Yep. I'm with you.
Today was really nice though. If you got outside at all, it was beautiful.
Stunning day.
I haven't been outside, but I did see it was going to be nice. Like I said, it was a day.
God bless me. Okay.
A couple more minutes. I started recording already.
Oh, good.
We have one agenda item tonight, but I think, and along with the legal training, but I think it's going to be a really good one for you guys to review and give some feedback to. So I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Thank you.
Oh gosh. No. Give me 1 second.
Sure. Whenever you're ready, David, just tell me when you want me to get started.
Let me open this up real quick. Okay, I think you could get ready whenever you're ready, Kristen.
Okay. Yes, sir. So good evening. My name is Kristen Kraus, and I am filling in for Madam Chairperson Erica Chase. Welcome to the April 5th Design Review Board, City of Charleston. Members of our board today that will be in the discussions is Dino Sloyoyo, Aaron Stevens, Andy Smith, and myself, Kristen Kraus. Members of the staff are David Meeks, Andrea Durungs, and Tori Parrish. Excuse if I said those names slightly wrong. There is only one on the agenda today. There's been no deferrals. No board members are recused from the agenda today. And in order, the meeting will be as follows. Introduction of the project, context overview by staff, project presentation by the application with a 10-minute minimum, and an additional 10 minutes can be requested by the applicant and can be granted at the time of request. All presenters to clearly state their name for the record at the beginning of their speaking. Persons affiliated with the project, designers, owners, developers, consultants, should please also speak and give their name at that time. Board questions is after that, and then public comments, which we like to limit to 10 minutes. Applicants that do not get to respond at this time can clearly state their name for the record. City staff recommendations follows that, and then the applicant responds to clarify any of the public comments and city staff comments. A limit of that is usually 5 minutes. Board discussion, applicant may clarify inaccurate or information when recognized by the chairman, but otherwise may only speak when asked a question by the board. Board motion and a vote follows that. If you don't mind, please turn off all of your cell phone devices, mobile phones that make noise at this time during the meeting. And our comments from the public are to be limited to the site design, architectural purview from the building only. The board does not have any authority over zoning issues such as land use, building density, flooding, or traffic. And with that, I think that we are.
Oh, Kristen?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, could you go over some of the items that I have on the screen as well, please?
Oh, yes. Oh, the meeting protocol. Staff will call to the the staff will control the PowerPoint presentation that includes everything submitted by the applicant by the deadline in ordinance with the submittal requirements. Applicants simply may ask staff to advance to the next slide during your presentation. Applicants, staff, and board members are required to give their name whenever speaking. Video and microphone must be disabled for all attendees. Attendees not board members or staff will only be given the capabilities of speaking when they are called during their public comment period. Chat and Q&A functions have been disabled for everyone. The public comment period, applicants and all team members and public may have been required to register and indicate the project that they wish to comment on and submit any documents in advance to this meeting. Just as in an as-person meeting, all applications heard today are part of a public meeting format. If you have any registered and will speak during the public comment portion of this meeting, you will need to state your name and address for the record. These members of the public that have registered will be called on an order of their project. Members of the public that speak are encouraged to remain in the meeting for the completion of the item that they are commenting on. And staff will call on registered members to the public to speak for each project. Unregistered members of the public who raise their hand will not be called on. The board members should open the participants panel so that each member can see the status of the other boardrooms, microphones, and cameras. And I think that that is everything. Oh no, there's any additional to contact the DRB at Charleston-SC-GOV or visit the Charleston-SC.gov DRB for any technical difficulties during the meeting. These proceedings are beginning and recorded now. And I think that's everything. And we are looking at the Ashley River and Dogwood Road Homes of Hope.
Yes, thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, David.
Just a little bit of context to go over. You can see the red circle is the location of the site. This is at Dogwood Road and the intersection of Dogwood Road and Ashley River Road, the northwest corner of the intersection. Here's a little closer view. And then zooming in even closer, you've got some residential to the west, a little mini mall across the street on Ashley River Road. There's a little bit more residential to the south of the site, as well as commercial to the north. And then on the corner of the intersection, the existing gas station that will remain. So this is looking south on Ashley River Road into an entrance of an existing church. This church is less than 50 years old and so did not require DRB approval to be demolished. So I think they're moving forward with the demolition of this, what used to be a church. And then this is also looking south on Ashley River Road. This is the existing business that will border the site to the north. And this is the same church that will be demolished. This is looking north on Ashley River Road. Okay, now this is on Dogwood Road, looking to the west. The existing gas station's to your right, and then this area in here is the beginning of the site. This is close to where the entrance is going to be into the proposed site. Right about here where I'm going to show my cursor, that's where the entrance will be. And then this is also on Dogwood Road, looking to the east. And these are some of the residential properties that will be just to the west of the site. And with that, I will turn it over to the applicant. Not sure who's going first. Would that be Rivers? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You're all set to go?
So yeah, Rivers Cape, Stephen Whiteside. So this is our Homes of Hope project over in West Ashley. As David said, it's at the corner of Ashley River Road and Dogwood Road. Currently, we're proposing 78 affordable housing townhome units in 16 different buildings. As David also said, our driveway is coming in off of Dogwood Road with kind of a singular internal loop road with a stormwater detention pond on the planned west of the project. Mike, do you want to?
Sure. My name is Mike Cottrell. I'm a landscape architect at Stephen Whiteside. I guess if you would move forward through the slides to the landscape portion of the project, we'll move through a lot of the civil right there. There are two main goals landscape-wise. One was to provide a large amount of open space, and the second was to make sure that each one of the units is directly and safely connected to each type of open space that's on the site. So as you can see on the plan, actually, is this the first slide for landscape or the second one?
Here we go. This one?
Yes, there, okay. We start off the open space with a central green. You can see the number 1 up there. And that's a space that's created around an existing tree that is to be saved, a really large red oak, which will be a nice passive open space in the center of the project for the most part. As well as a waterfront park that'll go around the retention pond on the west side, or the planned west side of the site. That includes an amenity building and a dock. And then to the east of the site, and pretty much throughout the site, we have passive open space that creates a network around the entire site with paths, mostly plantation mix type paths, but some concrete within there, especially on that east side next to Ashley River Road. All of these connected with sidewalks internally throughout the site that will connect all the buildings to those open spaces. Next slide, please. So with the planting scheme, that's pretty standard with buffer plantings and pond plantings. Both of those, we've gone majority, just about 99% native for both types of areas. And then foundation plantings and plantings that will mark entrances and things like that, which become a bit more ornamental with grasses and ground covers and those types of plantings. If you go to the next slide, you can see we've provided images of what types of plantings we are going to have on the site. So we have our trees, majority native, and then as you move through, shrubs and ground covers and grasses. And we're hoping that this will help you understand the type of scheme that we have going on there. And if you have any questions, please let us know. And I'll move from here to architecture.
Thank you.
And the architect should be David Langley. He should be on the call as well, but he is not with us in our meeting.
Rivers, I forgot to ask, were you guys going to need more than 10 minutes? Because you're at about 4, let's see what you're at now. Just put you on the timer.
I'm
Give
not
7
seeing
minutes.
David Langley.
6.5 minutes left.
David Langley, there's only one phone number listed, and that's Seaman Whiteside, and I don't see a David Langley listed.
There's a David Langley listed under panelist right
Oh, I'm
now.
sorry. I've already let him in. Yeah.
Yeah, David, I'm on it. I didn't know if Jeff was going to talk first or I was going to speak, but
Go ahead, David.
As well.
Go ahead, David.
Okay. Most of the units are 4 and 6 unit buildings, as you can see. We're trying to do on the end units a lower level bedroom that could accommodate ADA. And again, just trying to do some porches to scale the building down, various types of cementitious siding between a combination of vertical and horizontal and different widths of siding. And then we're not, open to any suggestions for how you'd like to see it fit into the community better. The center units, because the bedrooms are upstairs, the second floor is a little larger than the lower levels. So we've got a couple of recessed porches in the middle units, and on the ends, we've got sort of traditional porches on the fronts of the buildings. That's, in a nutshell about it. Again, just a combination of materials and trying to play with keeping the building at a residential small scale. Jeff, you want to add anything?
Sure, I can. I'm Jeff Randolph, work with Homes of Hope across the state of South Carolina, providing affordable housing. Homes of Hope operates throughout South Carolina, has provided over 640 affordable housing units. And this development on Ashby River Road will be affordable for sale townhomes. As David said, we're open to suggestions. We are trying to meet a somewhat different buyer profile than just a traditional townhomes, because we're trying to have, make sure we have bedrooms down for ADA. So there might be some criteria that are influencing footprint and design. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, so is that it? Thank you.
Kristen, do you want me to
There's
take
Pat-
back over? You got it.
Yes, absolutely, Erica.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry for running late, everyone. Any questions from the board? I did have one to start off. I am a little bit familiar with the site itself. The drainage easements that run perpendicular to Ashley River Road, how are those being accommodated? I worked on a couple of previous iterations with different developers on the site, and that was a big hurdle that impeded a lot of the site planning efforts, because those could not be abandoned.
So this is Rivers Cape with Seaman Whiteside. Our plan for the drainage easements and ditch on site was to fill the existing ditch, pipe all the water that comes from Ashley River Road and off site, and route that through our stormwater detention pond, taking that into account to our stormwater study.
Is bypass flow through?
Yes, that's currently the plan right now. We're just gonna size our pond to account for the flow that's currently coming through the site.
Okay. Stormwater may have changed their take on it, but I was running into issues on that approach a few years back. Just a heads up on that.
Okay, thank you.
And then the grand trees, are any being proposed being removed, and has the BZA approval been obtained if that's the case?
Yes, it has.
That's all of my questions. If anyone else has any.
This is Andy. I guess I have a couple. So this is a for sale product, is my understanding, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm wondering, two things is that y'all continue to refer to ADA, but it looks like that the units are all served by stairs onto the porch. Is that correct?
No, those ADA's units, they would have stairs, but we would also accommodate access through sidewalks and ramps. That when not all of the units are going to be for ADA, we just needed to make sure that we had a bedroom downstairs. So that's why the N units have a bedroom downstairs, and some of those will be designated for ADA.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out on the site plan where we have ramps versus stairs. And it may not be readily apparent, but I would say
probably not.
We would like to see that at the next level.
We can do that.
My next question is how are y'all handling trash and recycling on the site?
Rivers, can you address that?
I believe our initial thoughts were having just individual rollouts for each individual unit. With this being not a public right of way, it would be a private trash service, I believe, that would have to come and pick those up.
We've also recently done in several instances in-ground containers where it's picked up. And if that's available in the marketplace, we would pursue that as well.
Okay. All right. That's all my questions right now.
This is Erin. I had a couple questions too. I was curious about the garbage, but Andy already covered that. And then kind of tied to that, what about the HVAC units for the individual units? Are those located yet, or do we know what they're going to be?
David, can you?
On our site plan, I believe we're showing a couple HVAC units on each building. We'll probably have to further define all of them as we come through, but I think the idea right now is it'll be located on each side of the building towards the, I guess, rear of the building.
Okay. Yeah, that's just something we'll want to see more detail on, and then also understand how they're going to be screened in the future, because sometimes they get tacked on at the last minute and it can be an oversight. So just something to keep in mind as you develop it further. And then one other question I have for the landscape architects, you mentioned the trail that you were doing going around the pond, which I think is nice, but I'm curious if there's been any effort to kind of wrap the whole site with some type of trail. It looks like it's just limited around the pond, and then you have the interior sidewalks. Is that something that has been or could be explored?
Yeah, we can definitely explore it. We're with the upper part of the site, we have some constraints and space up there, but so that we kind of connect on the outside of that pond, we connect to the internal sidewalk from there, so it becomes that circular path. But we can definitely look into connecting up in that northern portion of the site.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it could, tie through the buffer and just give a longer loop for people in the neighborhood to walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
This is Dinos. Leo, good afternoon, and delighted to have more affordable housing considered for the Charleston area. I had a few questions, but I wanted to follow up on something that Andy and Erin were asking about, and that's the trash issue. You were saying that there might be rollout cans. How and where are they stored?
Well,
Looking at the fourplex, for instance, right now, and
if we did that, we'd have to create that storage on the side of the building on the portion that's not visible, and enclose that. And it could be that you put 2 on one side, 2 on the other. What you don't want to do is put them behind the units, and then because it's difficult to hide those. So you would put them on the side somehow, whether they're all ganged or half and half.
And you would enclose them in a fence or enclose them in
Typically, you would enclose them in some type of, something that would be accessible, easily accessible, but would have the ability to get those out. So we've done somewhere we've enclosed them, but kept open a lane of traffic so somebody doesn't have to open a gate every time they go in. But then it's easy to get them out because obviously you're going to roll them out once a week.
Yeah. Can I ask you, I'm looking at the site plan right now. What is like between buildings, looking at the top, building G and H, for instance, or even H and I, what is the distance between those two buildings?
Rivers, can you answer
I
that?
believe that we're 12 or 13 feet from building to building.
Okay. Thank you. Let me ask you a few other questions then. I'm kind of scanning through, and when it's trying to align architecturally the first floor and the second floor is somewhat challenging, and comparing it to the elevations that you've provided us. Am I to understand, looking at the back elevation or the floor plan to the rear on the first floor, you, and this is the fourplex, I'm on drawing number A 2.0. This back port on the end unit to the left, there appears to be a back porch with columns and stairs leading down. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, Dino, there's a back porch on the interior middle units, as well as a front porch.
Okay, maybe what I'm doing is looking at the front then. On the bottom of that first floor plan would be the front, and then the top of the first floor plan is the rear of the property, I'm assuming.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Can you kind of walk me through it as far as the alignment of the first floor to the second floor? How do they align?
The porch is recessed, so the second floor aligns with the front, with the outboard edge of the front porch on the interior units.
Okay, and the interior units I understand. It's that end unit that I think I've.
Oh yeah, the end unit, the porch is projecting beyond the front wall. The front wall of the lower unit aligns with the porch of the interior unit, and then the porch on the end unit is projected beyond that. But
so from a framing standpoint,
the second floor, let me back up. I think the second floor of the end unit is back inboard. There's a beam across the living room, so the upper floor of the end unit is back in alignment with the middle unit.
Okay, so that's about where it aligns, and then on the back side, on the rear, is
it sheds back in.
And where would you say the beam to support the second floor?
About in alignment with the exterior wall of the interior unit.
Okay. Okay, that helps tremendously.
We kept playing with the square footages to try to get the square footages in sort of balance, but we ended up with a larger footprint on the end units and a smaller upstairs, and just the reverse on the interior units.
I got you. If I'm sticking with the four quadplex, and if I'm looking at the north elevation on that, which I'm assuming is the rear elevation. And I'm not so sure that this one, it appears that the exterior of the second floor is further, I'm looking at the left side now. The exterior of the second floor is aligned. How does that work? Is this column basically on the first floor? The drawings are very difficult to read when off the screen, off my screen, and I'm just trying to understand. There are these tiny columns in between two that frame the door.
Yes.
Okay, so those are just little 4x4s or something?
Yeah, or 6x6s. We haven't really detailed them yet, but yeah, there's just something to give a break of some aesthetic there between the windows and the door.
Okay, and are they structural?
I suspect maybe one pair would be, but the second one maybe not.
Okay.
Our span's not that great, but the chances are it's going to be easier to let one set of them be structural.
And do you anticipate, I saw on a drawing that there are gutters that you have. How the downspouts, how do they run?
I think we're going to have to bring them off on the edge of those porches.
Okay.
So
they would basically flank the
porches. Got into that level of detail yet, but yeah, okay. I can appreciate the comment.
I mean, and understand, and thank you, David. You're very kind. We're trying to, as we're looking at this height, scale, and mass and architectural direction, just making sure that we fully understand what all is happening with everything. Can I send you for a moment to drawing yeah, this is the one, A 5-0. If you can, and I'm trying to go back and forth looking at my PDF. If you again look at that north elevation, and I'm looking to the left side again where you have the shed roof, the second floor, is it possible to align the first floor and the second floor walls together so that you move this wall on the first floor over to align with that second floor break?
Yeah, I think I'm following your, I think you can do that, yeah.
The reason I'm saying that, there's going to be comments coming up, I know. It's an interesting division of volumes. And it may help us significantly if there's clarity with regards to that center section volume versus the end volumes that you're dealing with.
Gotcha.
And it may help us in resolving a couple of issues that I know are a concern of mine, being how, considering the proximity to Ashley River Road and the proximity to Dogwood, how do they present themselves without going into massive site reorientation? Is there something that we can do to possibly help create a facade that's actually two-sided? Let's see. The sixplexes, is there, I was trying to study them again, and obviously the older I get, the harder it is to see on these little screens. Is the primary difference between the sixplexes, the porches that you have going onto the exterior?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. The gables that you're showing on the south elevation.
Yeah, that's just an alternate facade that we had, one where it didn't have a gable on the end and one where we added the gables back on the end.
Okay.
Just as an option.
Okay. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Dino, one thing we were struggling with is the firewalls between each units, and that's kind of why that offset is that you're seeing on the rear
I got you.
is wrapping that firewall that we're required to have, and it misaligns the downstairs and upstairs because we're wrapping the wall on the upper floor, and then we're wrapping it again on the lower floor back into that porch. So I think that's what you're seeing visually. This maybe you're asking us to resolve.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? With none, we do have one letter to be read that was received. We do not have any members of the public that were registered to speak, so I'll go ahead with the letter. It's from Katie Zimmerman. Dear members of the Design Review Board, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the conceptual proposal for a new affordable housing project consisting of 78 two-story townhome units. As part of the site plan, I respectfully request that sidewalks be included along the property's frontage on Dogwood Road. I see a path in the design along Ashley River Road, but it is unclear whether there is a safe space for people on foot incorporated in this project along Dogwood. Thanks again. So with that, the public comment portion of the meeting is closed, and we are now in staff comments. David, please.
Thank you, Erica. First, some staff observations before I get into the staff comments. Staff has given some feedback on the site plan during TRC meetings, but not on the architecture. The buildings appear to be somewhat prototypical, but as this is affordable housing and attractive architectural style, staff feels we can make an exception with some conditions. Height, scale, and mass seem appropriate, not too overwhelming. The materials evoke low country or coastal architecture, which staff approves, including the metal porch roofs on the end units and the brick base. Our staff appreciates the different siding exposures between the first and second floors for a variety on the buildings. The conceptual landscape plan and plant palette are off to a good start. The applicants are providing some pervious pavers, which is also good. And there's nice pedestrian circulation with sidewalks and trails. So staff comment one, staff recommends some articulation to the massing on the fronts of the 4-unit buildings as depicted at the second story. The board and batten and the lap siding sections are in the same plane. This is not the case on the 6-unit building. Number 2, the 4-unit buildings include windows on the sides of the first floor at the end units. Staff recommends these be included on the 6-unit building. As depicted, the 6-unit buildings have no windows on the first floor side, which leaves a long, flush, solid wall. Number 3, improve the window proportions at the second story of the end units by lowering the porch roofs. Number 4, improve window light proportions by revising the window pattern to a 6/1 grid at the standard size windows. The extra vertical grid line will give these lights a more vertical proportion. Number 5, thicken the columns as they appear too thin to visually support the heavy conditioned masses above them. At the tapered columns, the bases should also be thickened. Number 6, staff recommends increasing the depth of the porches from 6 feet to 8 feet to better function and also be more inviting. Number 7, include cap and base trim on the columns. Number 8, at a minimum, align window heads with the door heads. As depicted at the rear elevations, the windows are placed lower than the door heads. Number 9, place the tops of the second windows flush with the fascia to omit the small siding gap. Number 10, add an overhang to the ends of the gables. As you can see here, this was done by Tori as an example for some of the things that we're discussing. It appears, this is number 11, it appears that there are inaccuracies in the drawing graphics regarding the tops of the columns at the front porches and their intersection with the porch breast beam. The fascia also is showing some inconsistencies graphically. Work out the graphic inconsistencies on the drawing. Number 12, the porch lights are not centered over the front doors, but staff feels that a sconce on one side of the door or the other might be better. Number 13, at the interior units, relocating the entry door and porch steps to the smaller porch bay openings. This would place 2 standard windows in the larger porch bay and directly beneath the 2 standard windows at the second floor. And it would give more order to the front elevation of these units. Additionally, while not in DRB purview, we are observing that the small size of the living room and the location of the front door, which almost renders the living rooms unusable. We feel if the front door were to be relocated and aligned with the interior stairs, and this is also for the exterior stairs that they moved with the front door to be in line with the interior stairs, there would be more usable space in the living room. Number 14, staff is concerned about the proximity of building P and building Q regarding the privacy of the porches. Those are the 2 buildings in the center of the site plan. They're backed up to each other and appear to be about 10 feet apart. We're just concerned about the privacy when people are sitting on their back porch. Explore ways to increase this space. Number 15, staff would prefer to see more of a sense of arrival rather than pulling in between parked cars when you first enter the site. Number 16, staff has mentioned to the applicant that we do not want to see what looks like the backs of buildings on Ashley River Road, which is buildings L, M, and N. These do look like the backs of buildings, but this may be a non-issue if the landscape buffer is enhanced enough with added vegetation, evergreens, etc. To mitigate some concern, we recommend considering using the double columns in lieu of the single columns at the rear porches. This would be consistent with the front elevation for these 3 buildings. Number 17, staff would like to see a note that the existing landscape buffers will have landscape added to them if found to be too thin. We ask that applicants include a plant palette to add to the existing buffers, which would include plants like red cedars. Number 18, staff recommends adding a playground somewhere on the site. So with that, staff does recommend conceptual approval with the conditions noted.
Thank you, David. Does the applicant team have any responses or clarifications to public comments or David's staff comments?
Yes, this is Rivers Cape at Stephen Whiteside. There is existing sidewalk along Dogwood Road. We'll be demoing a portion of that for our driveway with a crosswalk, but there currently is sidewalk.
Thank you. Now we are in board discussion and a motion.
This is Dinos. The excellent comments from staff, very comprehensive. Thank you. Architecturally, there's a variety of issues that could potentially be worked with that I think could strengthen. And I share the concern that staff has expressed with regards to the back of the building, particularly fronting not only Ashley River Road, but Dogwood Road as well, and the appearance that it provides as far as a streetscape, and feel that that really needs to be worked out more so. I think as staff has recommended, just more attention to those elevations. It seems like there is a grand opportunity to even go further in simplifying the forms and the volumes. And I think that's one of the strengths that the plan and the design offers, is just a very simple initial starting point, but then going further in that and really cleaning up a clear delineation of how those volumes read within each block that we're looking at. A great example was just the aspect of how the center section on the sixplex complex begins to read clearly as a component, and then the end units tie back to it. And the other aspect is that there, I think the material can be greatly simplified, I think, as expressed by staff again, by virtue of maybe because the units are, because of the size of the complexes, they're small and could potentially read very cleanly if there's further examination on simplifying the presentation of the material, and that would even go toward the presentation of the color. And I guess this could be argued, but I would say that if the color were to translate all the way through from one side of the building to the other, I could understand, but possibly just a monochromatic structure would be extremely clean and very attractive within the context of the site. The other issue is a concern on the dependency of landscape to potentially shield a side of a building from Ashley River Road or from Dogwood. And I know that we have addressed this in the past with other projects, and that each elevation architecturally has to stand on its own as opposed to depending on vegetation. So consequently, those elevations that particularly front the Ashley River Road and Dogwood really need to create a facade that is both compelling and welcoming as far as the buildings are concerned. And it may just be as simple on some of those as translating the front gable that you have to the rear as well, and giving a little bit more study and definition to what's happening with the way that the buildings look. Anyway, those just some initial thoughts and dialogues. One thing that I didn't see is an amenities building that I think was addressed. Did I miss that? There was an amenities building that's supposed to be going along with the pond.
Yes, there's an amenity building. It's, yeah, right there.
Yeah, are there elevations?
It's an open aired pavilion. And we have not developed that architecture.
Okay.
But can.
Is this a prototype? May I ask the applicant a question, Madam Chair? Is this a prototype design that you have used elsewhere?
No.
Okay.
Oh, there are some similar designs. I did get.
Yeah, there are some similar design, but not.
I've got
not prototype
examples at the end here. Mm-hmm. These are different, but done by these gentlemen.
I see.
Any additional comments or motion? Whoever makes the motion, if you could include by the next submittal to have vetted out the filling of the drainage ditch. Because if there is a roadblock with that, that would have a significant effect on the site plan. One question I had for you, David, was, sorry, go ahead, Andy.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You had the floor.
Was that, and this may have addressed before I hopped on, so I apologize, but is the city council ordinance still in effect that our board only sees this at conceptual level, and so preliminary would be at staff since it's affordable housing?
That's a very good question. I'll have to check on that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot here. Andy, you had the floor. I'm sorry. Let me let you go ahead and speak.
I mean, This is Andy, and I just had a few points in that, I agree with staff comments, especially 14. I'm very concerned with those buildings. I'm really fairly concerned with the presentation towards Ashley River Road. It's always, and this is probably a little strange coming from a landscape architect, but I just know that, once you start taking the three-dimensional aspects of a canopy and an environment out, and 50 feet seems like a long way until you take everything out behind it, and it becomes very transparent. So I'm, really pretty concerned about the presentation off of the site. What's the public seeing? Very concerned with the sense of arrival. I think that does need to be worked on significantly. I'd like to add to staff's comment number 18 about the playground is that, potentially some other site furnishings on the site, especially if the path begins to expand, some benches, and even around the ponds, benches, some places for people to enjoy that environment that's not necessarily just your amenity building. I'm not saying a lot, just a few around that perimeter, can be very helpful. I am very concerned about how we're handling refuge, garbage, trash, recycling, whatever we want to call it on the site. It has the potential of being something that becomes a lasting issue, especially with rollout. If you have the potential to do a centralized location, I think it'll do a lot for your project. That's not something we can, I think, force. That's, your economics of your project. But I think that if when we look at this again, have that answer worked out for us. If it's rollout bins, I think, how you're storing that, how those are being used on the site is going to be an important question. I think looking at accessibility and how accessibility is shown on the site, where your A units are versus how your B units are accessed. I think is something that has the potential to change your pedestrian patterns on the site. I think that your landscape plan and your landscape palette is heading in the right direction. I would suggest that you keep your clients' budgets in mind with some of the plants, and maybe, as you're developing your landscape plan, some of those plants are more expensive and harder to find than others. So, this being an affordable housing project, you may want to keep the cost of those plants in mind. My only other question or only other comment regarding the palette is that things like saw palmettos, the bayonet plant, the yuccas, let's keep those away from pedestrian areas. If not, maybe substitute something for them. I got or somebody's child got a very painful lesson in certain types of plants here recently that I was unfortunate enough to witness. So those are really kind of my only comments in addition to staff's.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair, may I ask the applicant one other question?
Sure.
David, I was curious on the roofing itself. As I understand, this is a metal roof.
Just the rendering got illustrated, but it's really a metal roof just at the porches, and we're going to do shingles on the main body of the building.
Okay, that's exactly where I was hoping you were going. I didn't know if the perspective was a
Yeah,
continuing evolution.
it rendered in a grainy pattern that makes it look like there's a metal ridge there, but it's not. It's really the metal roof on just the porches.
And I think that actually believe that the shingle roof would be very appropriate for everything.
I agree.
If Aaron didn't have any comments, I'd be happy to make a motion. It's
I'd just like to add what I mentioned before, and I think Andy kind of touched on this a little, but about just exploring the path and kind of integrating it into all of the public amenities, or not public amenity spaces, but the community amenity spaces better, exploring putting it in the exterior buffer and in some of those green spaces.
well, guys, y'all need to help me, but I'm delighted to try to put together a motion here.
Okay.
And first of all, thank you, David. He's got a wonderful reputation as architectural firm, and I have no doubts he'll be able to address all these issues. I feel that there are a lot of items that we probably as a board would like to see resolution on before we go into the preliminaries to save issues, problems, conflicts as we go down. And so consequently, it would be my motion for deferral with staff comments 1 through 18, all excellent comments. Board comments to include resolution regarding the drainage ditch. Is that correct, Erica?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Existing drainage ditch.
Existing drainage ditch. From a site standpoint, clearly delineating accessibility, site accessibility to the units. Showing the amenities building. Delineating that vertically and architecturally. Screening all the mechanical units and showing the location of the mechanical units. Resolve refuge and how trash will be addressed on the site. To elaborate a little further, to restudy the elevations of the buildings along Dogwood Road and Ashley River Road to ensure that we are not presenting a rear, let me rephrase that, to present an acceptable elevation to the general public. The next item would be simplify the building elevations in terms of materials and color. The next item is look at the canopies. Is it necessary that so many different exterior porches are required? May just want to simplify it. Again, I'm thinking affordable housing, just the more we can replicate. And again, I know the architect is highly proficient at this, but the more that it's replicated.
State that again, sorry, study the simplification of what?
Simplification of the porches and the porch
The
roof.
front or rear or both?
Both.
Okay.
Both. And in the resubmittal, may want to provide some type of axon as to how the first and the second floors are aligning with each other so that we have a better understanding of, it was really difficult to follow, not being able to overlay the drawings or see what was happening. So
Sorry, say
just
that one again, too, Dino, so I apologize.
to provide a three-dimensional graphic on the alignment of the first floor to the second floors. And then to be mindful that the board encourages the deepest recesses possible on all fenestration. And then finally, to restudy the forms so that they will read independent and along the lines of what we were talking about a moment ago about the firewalls. How can we strengthen the volume and the form of the center section of the sixplex versus the 2N units? So a restudy of the forms.
Is that just at the six unit building or the 4 as well, or all buildings?
I would do all buildings.
Okay. That it?
That's it.
Okay, so I have a motion for deferral with staff comments 1 through 18, along with board comments 1. Provide a resolution regarding the existing drainage ditch. 2, clearly delineate the site accessibility to the units. 3, show the amenity structure. 4, screen all mechanical units and show on plan. 5, resolve the refuse collection. 6, restudy elevations of buildings along Dogwood and Ashley River Road to present acceptable elevations to the general public. 7, simplify building elevations in terms of material and color. 8, study the simplification of the porches. 9, provide a 3D graphic of first and second floors. 10, be mindful that the board encourages the deepest recesses possible in all fenestrations. And 11, restudy forms so they read independent.
Erica, there was one other, and that was what Andy was saying about the vegetation. Andy, is there any need to include anything further in there about the vegetation? You're on mute.
Raised benches.
I would, this is Andy, I would just ask that we include the study of the location of vegetation.
And also, this is Erin, my comment about exploring the expansion of the trail amenity throughout the site.
Yes,
If we could add that as well.
please.
All right, Andy, your comment is to study the existing buffers.
No, the plant palette, specifically to plants like saw palmetto and the yucca plants, to have them placed away from pedestrian areas.
Okay, so we're amending the motion to include a number 12, study the plant palette, specifically swap palmetto, the saw palmettos and yucca plants, or not swap, but remove them from any pedestrian areas. And then
Yes.
13, explore the expansion of the trail beyond the amenity area. Is that right, Erin?
Throughout the site.
Throughout the site, okay, thank you. Dinos, is that acceptable for those two to be added?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have a motion as stated for deferral. Is there a second?
This is Andy, I will second.
Thanks, Andy. I will now call roll. Erin,
Yes, in favor.
Kristen,
Yes, in favor.
and then myself, yes, in favor as well. So that concludes item number 1. Thank you, everyone, very much. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the March 15th, 2021 DRB meeting.
So
Is there a
moved.
motion?
This is Dino, so moved.
Thank you, Dinos. Is there a second?
Aaron will second.
Thanks, Aaron. And now call roll. Andy,
Yes, in favor.
Kristen,
Yes, in favor.
and same for me, yes, in favor. So that concludes our, the public portion of our meeting. We will now need to participate in legal updates and training in our executive session. Can someone please make a motion to move, to go into executive session?
Erica, this is Andy. I make a motion to adjourn to an executive session.
Thank you, Andy. Is there a second?
This
I'll
is Aaron.
second.
Oh.
Aaron seconds.
Aaron seconds it. So now we will, I believe, exit this Zoom and enter into the second Zoom link. So thank you everyone very much, and I will see our board shortly.
All right,
Thanks.
thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Hey, they're coming back. No, not that one. Let's see here. I was trying to remind everybody they need to come back here. Glad to see everybody. Now I don't know if Eric came back. Erica. Well, I don't know what if Erica doesn't come back to dismiss us. I don't want to do something that's not official. I think we were supposed to take a vote to leave the executive session and go back into the main meeting, but we got cut off before that happened. So
do we need to go back into executive session?
I don't think so.
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
I would say that I will take a vote to see if we want to end the meeting.
We don't have a quorum.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Okay.
gosh. We have to stay here till someone shows up.
Well, we have to stay here until the next meeting.
Does anyone have Erica's cell phone number?
Oh, I do. Let me call her real quick. She won't let us go. Give me 1 second. Hi there. Hey, we are back in the main meeting. I think we need you just to come in and dismiss us. If that's okay. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Bye-bye. She's coming.
Okay.
Oh, here's Tori. Sorry, Tori. Okay. She's not on yet. Okay, here she is.
My apologies. I was off making dinner already.
And we were on our way to your house to eat.
I know. So we are back in public session. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Aaron with the second. We are out of executive session. And so for the benefit of the public, no votes were taken in executive session. And there being no further business, this meeting is now adjourned.
Yay.
Wonderful
Thank-
seeing everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
All right, have a great night.
Y'all too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.